With 25 years of revolutionizing healthcare tech from retired partner at PwC, leadership at Harvard's Risk Management Foundation, board member and former faculty at Harvard School of Public Health, HIMSS Fellow to CIO at Cincinnati Children's and founding GE's Huntington Group. He's passionate about responsible AI for safer transformative care. Incidentally, Thomas and he met by chance at a Porto cafe. Next, let's welcome Ajit Sundaran, distinguished finance leader turned founder and chief caffeinator at Fusion Copy, from MD and CFO for JP Morgan India, Wells Fargo India and Philippines, across 9 organizations in 11 cities and 9 countries. He boldly pursued his passion as lead vocalist of Fusion Copy, blending Carnatic mysticism with contemporary fusion in over 20 live performances. Classically trained Carnatic singer and Kathakali dancer, award-winning Mridangam artist, NTSC scholar, and All India radio performer, plus an avid golfer and biker with 18,000 kilometers on epic rides. Next, let's welcome Thomas K. Vaidhi, visionary, social entrepreneur, and architect of transformative EdTech. As MD of Aten India and CEO of Aten Incorporation USA, a multiple award-winning pioneer recognized in 2025 as the top agnostic AI virtual learning tools provider and serious games leader, he's smashing global education barriers with AI, ML-powered immersive simulations. Founding board member at Best NC Research Triangle High School Board, first robotics judge and speaker at 25+ global events from Semicon India to ICAO, Doha, Madrid, Seoul, Singapore. He's also a low handicap golfer, state level tennis champ, trained Bharatanatyam dancer, innovative Kottayam recipe master, book and music collector, traveler, avid fisher, and most importantly, a devoted son. His motto is time over money. Live every day like there's no tomorrow. Finally, please welcome the moderator for this session, George Verghese, dynamic tech leader, entrepreneur, and investor. He founded, scaled, and sold 2 software companies in just 8 years, drove Infosys' expansion in Japan and Australia, advised PwC and Sutherland across the Middle East and India, and now guides IntelliSwift through the AI revolution. Beyond boardrooms, he's a magician, folk dancer, marathon runner, art of living teacher, and adventure motorcyclist who's exploring a new country every year. Let's give it up for this amazing panel.
Thank you, Lada. So good afternoon and welcome. So when we talk about AI and impact, we're really talking about people, isn't it? Those who get access, who gets empowered, who gets left behind. So the sutras of people, planet, and progress remind us that technology without progress, it's just computation. So as India accelerates into the next world, that AI world, the defining question is no longer, can we build advanced systems? It is, can we build inclusive human capital at the same pace? Today we'll explore how AI-powered learning systems like Aten's are helping answer that question by delivering personalized, immersive education, reaching talent wherever it exists. And we'll also step back to examine how AI can become a power for social good, connecting innovation to opportunity across sectors. Thomas, or Vaidyan, as I've always known you. As the founder and CEO of Aten, you've been at the intersection of AI and immersive learning long before AI as a word became cool. So you've seen the evolution up close. What works, what doesn't, and more importantly, what scales, particularly when inclusion is the goal. So tell us about how it has been for you, your story, how it's been in the early days, particularly with your customers, and some of them are here, and most importantly, how immersive learning has shaped your vision for building talent at scale in India.
Thank you, George. Thank you. And thank you, Lata, for that lovely introduction. So as we were talking when we spoke a few weeks back about this event, agentic AI is quite the buzzword now. But that is something that we have been sandboxing in our organization for close to 15 plus years. And that happened, some of you might have noticed on the background, with some of the early research that we did with North Carolina State University, and parallelly with Virginia Tech, and Harvard was also doing that, which was trying to see how the digital natives of today could be better engaged through methods that the Department of Defense was using in creating war simulations, etc. And what was most interesting was the results that came out of it, which, as you can see there, in 2005, NSF came out and said, we only retain 10% of what we read. Now we have videos, but that goes to 30%. But if we do something, even as a simulation, it goes up to 90%. Let me, even now, in this 2026, it's pathetic that we follow 18th century pedagogy, where it's instructor-led. There is no kind of assessment of applying of your knowledge, and it is more content knowledge that is being assessed, which is what happens with the multiple choice that you get. And we Indians are really good at mugging it up and vomiting it out, but not so much in applying it. So that is what we have tried to bring about based on this research.
An early augmented reality game where school students learn of red wolf extinction.
You might not be able to hear the volume, but
Veterinarians and scientists.
these were some of the early examples that we did with our project research. This is how kids were learning playing games.
Damping, etc. to win the race.
Now this is a pretty cool looking video game. I would be amazed if you could guess who we built this for. This was for JP Morgan Chase in 2009,
Can you imagine?
where we took some of their early associates who joined and created pathways for them to become CEOs, CFOs, etc. in a very fun way. And I just will talk a little bit more about it, but it became so good that even the VPs wanted to take it. These are some examples where teachers are trained there. And the beauty of this is we use agentic AI there. They're taken through multiple decision-making models. The virtual mentor tells you what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right, etc. We created a virtual fractionation facility for a Spanish company called Grifols, where they could walk in even before the building was made, and they could take trainings in each of them. There were people, their leadership from Japan, who could walk in virtually and look at things, how it was progressing.
The bioreactor training, the wrong move could even cause an explosion.
In this particular case, there are cases where a bioreactor can blow up if you walk away. So we take people through those kind of experiences and make them learn that, and give them experience which they would not otherwise be able to have in real life in these virtual worlds.
All these virtual worlds is that you get to simulate real life scenarios, making it fun, challenging, and exciting through gamification.
And what we have heard from our users is when we transform 100-page standard operating procedures in this kind of learning, they love it. They learn better. And I'll talk later about it, but the impact on learning is phenomenal. This is a pilot training simulation. Lata had mentioned, you can't hear?
Is that this enables people to apply what
Yeah.
they have learned. Like, you are making them, you're showing them first what to do, how to do it, and then you're making them do it. So you're creating a simulated, immersive environment where they can apply what they have learned. That is what happens here.
Place the engine cowling just below the horizon line depending on your power setting for 20 seconds.
Ajit, you had quite a bit of experience with some of our early and later
Sure.
products. Why don't you?
Sure, no, thanks, Zoidin. So this goes back about 16 years, and this is a chance conversation. And I was at JP Morgan at that point in time, heading the finance function, and a chance conversation with the then CEO of JP Morgan India, Kalpana Morpari. I mean, she was saying her nephew learned driving a car just by playing a video game or a few video games, and that got me thinking. I just thought wildly, since I'm a finance person, can someone learn finance? By gaming, by playing a game. So you make a dry subject like finance interesting, you learn a game and then through that pick some concepts and learn a program, whatever. So I got working on it, spoke to a few service providers, got them to our office, my team spoke to them, but I was really not satisfied with, what I heard because they had not progressed at all. A chance conversation with Thomas Wyden actually, during one of our reunions where we are, sitting, with our legs in the water and spirits high, as he say, I just told him, look, this is the dilemma I'm facing. And he said, look, do you know what I do? I said, no, I have a vague idea what you do, but not really. He said, look, this is what we are in. We are in immersive learning. We can help you. I said, yeah, why not? Why don't you come over to Mumbai, come to our office, speak to my team, and then let's see how it goes. So he came over, we had a meeting, and because I wanted my team to sort of, truly believe in it, not push something down to them. So all of them were very excited. That first meeting went off very well. Then I actually assigned a project team to it. I went up to the IB CFO and said, look, this is the idea. Can you give me some seed funding? And I asked for an amount. And he said, yes, go ahead. And I said, look, if I come back to you with a good product, then I'll probably come back to you with 10x of that amount. Which is what happened. We succeeded. In fact, we won a global award, from Jamie Dimon himself, giving us an award for that particular innovation. Which was, I think, maybe a little too early for our time. I'm talking 16 years back, where, a concept like finance, trying to learn through gaming, was maybe a little early. But probably not, because others appreciated it.
That's exactly what we did, right? We took that and then...
Yeah, exactly. So this is something really cutting edge at that time. And everyone involved in that whole project was so excited. And I think we got to a certain level, and then, and Thomas obviously delivered. He had a team sitting, in India, frankly, in Trivandrum, right? I mean, that is a team. So, and so it was cost effective, because, for doing something like this, I couldn't go to him and say, I want $1 million. I eventually got it, but the initial funding was much lesser. But then we managed to get it done.
Yeah, but what we learned from those experiences early on, including the stealth assessments that Jim Walk was very scared about, but where we took people through these kind of decision-making situations, where we actually applied some of the earliest agentic AI to guide them through decision-making scenarios, including tracking their time on task, integrity, etc., helped us later come to this Aten approach and the multiple frameworks that we have built. So the whole approach that we have is when we go and do a digital transformation for some of our organizations, we show them how to do it, we make them do it, and as they do it, track and assess how they do it. Now that is very important because this big data enables the AI agent or virtual mentor to give them what is called the instant formative feedback, which is just like, now you have all these tuition teachers, which we never had in our days, or more like, say, somebody was coaching Sachin and saying, hey, you have to hold this bat this way or swing your racket this way, which is individualized for each person. So just imagine, right now you guys study in classrooms with 35 to 200 people, but here thousands of people all over the world could be doing it at the same time. But how the virtual mentor reacts is to your strengths and weaknesses. And that is where the application for a place like India comes into play, right? Where we could learn in different languages the same thing, have the same kind of objective, the same parameters for everybody. A billion people could have the same lesson in different languages, right? But they progress at their own pace, and they fail and succeed. People can succeed after multiple attempts. We call it a safe environment. And for you in the industry, this would be most important because the impact on the bottom line is powerful. We have seen 30% productivity improvement, handling time 21%, training throughput 50%, and attrition 81% improvement. Ajit, you again?
No, I can, while you're reeling out the numbers, I mean, I can tell you from a real life example. So I spoke about the JP Morgan, 16 years back. But more recently, about 5 years back, when I was a CFO at Wells Fargo and the head of finance, we had engaged on a similar project, and by then Aten had improved significantly. From what we started 16 years back, their methodology had changed. The technology had improved, the team was getting tighter, the response time, the ability to get things done was much better. And then, frankly, we actually came up with a product where we were able to train a virtual team. Some of them sitting in India, some sitting in London, some sitting in the US, all with the same, at scale, to the point which he made. Which is phenomenal. I mean, so you're able to actually sort of translate learning and talking about metrics, something which used to take 12 weeks to complete in training, we managed to crunch that down to about 5 weeks or so. So significant reduction in training time because you had individualized attention, and sort of going through each person, looking at how they progress and all of that. So practically, it made a lot of sense. And by then, in 10 years' time or 15 years' time, things had advanced so much that we really got some very good benefit in the second time we did it around.
And that is what we need in India, right? When we are talking about upskilling for semiconductor industry, upskilling for robotics, etc., we need people to be reskilled fast. And these are the kind of tools that we need, and I'm glad we are able to share it. And we create this kind of a virtuous cycle where from the time we hire, we kind of check out people's strengths and weaknesses, and right through the time they leave, everything is tracked and assessed and predictive analytics, etc. given. So it's extremely, extremely powerful. Arvind and I were talking a little bit about this, of how it could be applied in the healthcare forum.
So healthcare is always a very people-intensive, skill-intensive industry, as we all know. And we've talked about ways in which you could ramp up even the use of technology across large healthcare remits, where if you used immersive learning, you probably could cut the time it takes to train a workforce of 3,500, 4,000 people that serve a health system by 20 to 30%, but more importantly, get them to the competency level that's very uniform, right, so that you don't have gaps in how they're using technology in providing care. So we've talked about some of those examples at doctors' offices, clinics, and so on.
Yeah, and again, that is something we need in the healthcare field in India for the massive number of people that is needed. Anyway, one aside, but something that might interest all of you, here is another agentic tool that we have created for free for needy kids, especially after watching the movie 12th Fail. Most of you must have seen it, and I thought we have the resources to do it. So this is a free competitive exam preparation tool. You can go in there, your kids can do it for free, and please share it with whoever needs it, because there is a personality test. That agent will assess your personality, tell you this is the college that is ideal for you, this is the career that is ideal for you. And if you want to prepare yourself for any of the competitive exams here or in US, you can do that, and it'll guide you through that process. Thank you, George.
Thank you, Vaidyan, Ajit, Arvind. I think the idea of immersive, personalized platforms, AI platforms like Aten's, actually promises learning to be fun, after all. So as we shift into the next part of our conversation, I'd like to broaden the lens. So far, we've spoken about talent and learning. Now let's explore how AI can become a power for social good, particularly across sectors like the subject matter experts over here, financial services, technology, and healthcare. Each of these sectors touch lives at scale. But healthcare perhaps does so more directly and more humanely. Aravind, you've been a thought leader in your domain for decades now, and more recently, a very forceful advocate of the responsible use of AI in your domain. You've seen your domain evolve through multiple waves of change, from systems to output and now to intelligence. So I'm going to put out a slightly uncomfortable truth. AI in healthcare often benefits those who have access. Fair enough? What would it take for AI to actually work for the last person in the queue, not just the first? How can these AI-driven diagnostic tools help expand good quality healthcare to the rural as well as the underserved population in India, while also keeping empathy at the core?
Excellent question. I'll contextualize a little bit with what's happening in the US and then bring it back to what work is going on in India that I'm aware of and we hear about in the industry. So I'd like to open by saying India's healthcare AI success metric is not sophistication. It really is about how you could prevent blindness, how you could prevent sepsis, how you could prevent diseases by screening early on, by scaling in a way where AI plays a role in providing that success. Because if you look at the US, in the last 2 years, there is about a 22% penetration of AI in domain-specific areas, but it's really focused on 2 domains. It's focused on documentation, ambient listening, ambient intelligence, and billing and coding. So you're basically leveraging that touch point around improving operational efficiencies. Well, you're giving back time to the clinician, and now the US is getting ready to think about, if I give time back to the physicians or the doctors, what does that do for me? Does it improve patient experience? Does it improve outcomes? It's a question we don't know. But it's a tenfold increase since 2023. So let's bring that back to India. So taking that breakout success from the US, I think India's opportunity is much bigger. And it's bigger because it can create human capacity. You've got a constricted patient to specialist ratio. How can you free that up? Think about a product that I think has come in the Indian market. It's called Ognito. There is chaos in the outpatient department. You go to a large metro, you have patients with different multilingual needs who need to be taken care of, and the doctor's attention in making that note-taking and also taking care of the patient while not losing eye contact gets diluted if not for using ambient intelligence. Now you take that and scale it to different clinics out in the rural areas. You've created a huge capacity multiplier, and that's very, very helpful. There are other examples. I've come across Presco. I know there is an infantile sepsis problem in India, and Presco offers a solution where the frontline worker, it could be a community health worker, could use that tool on the edge and do an early detection. So they're kind of playing the role of the neonatologist in early detection. So things like this are going to be very helpful for India to scale with. And I think I bring it back to 3 principles. First, India needs to do an AI-first design, multilingual, offline, deal with messy data. There's plenty of it out there. There's plenty of messy data in the US too, by the way. Workflow integration. Move away from point solutions, or if you bring point solutions to the table, make them more enterprise and scalable as part of the workflow. And finally, empathy by design. Make sure you're benefiting that doctor-patient relationship. I think those are some of the factors that'll take us there.
So essentially, the empathy as well as putting people in the line, ultimately, there is a human element while working with AI. That's essentially, and India seems to be, getting some of the fundamental pieces in place as you see it right now. And it needs to be designed for the country. So AI first from an India perspective, rather than just copying and mimicking the US.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arvind. Now, over to you, Ajit. You've been a leader in the financial services space with JP Morgan and with Wells Fargo, and working with Aiton in the AI space long before AI was cool. Now, we often say AI will democratize finance. But is AI really reducing the inequality or just digitizing it faster? From credit scoring to fraud detection, AI is fundamentally altering financial ecosystems. Now, how can we ensure that these innovations also include the unbanked and the underbanked populations in India?
So, George, excellent question. So currently, and it's a question that's close to my heart, because this is where AI can truly make a difference and at scale. Currently, if you look at the credit system, and I'm talking about retail credit, I mean, most banks lend to people based on ability and willingness to pay. So, ability, do you have a steady source of income, either salary income or a business income of a steady establishment, and obviously willingness to pay based on your past credit history. But that takes care of maybe 5% of the population, or maybe what about the rest? What about the roadside kirana wala? What about the vegetable vendor? What about the tea shop wala? The vegetable vendor, I'll just give an example. So you go in the morning to the money lender, you get goods worth 950 rupees, or rather you get 950 rupees, you buy your vegetables with that, and end of the day you have to give 1,000 rupees. So that's 50 rupees per day, which works out to more than 3,000 rupees per annum in terms of interest, which you're paying. Now that's significant, right? But if you can use AI intelligently, and by intelligently I mean, look, there are UPI transactions. Every other shop, every small chaiwala is accepting now UPI transactions. So you look at digital payment history, you look at telephone usage, you look at your payment history through various means other than cash, of course, because everything is now digital. I mean, most people just want your Google Pay or your Paytm or whatever. So using those means, AI can translate or interpret thousands and thousands of data points, and by doing this, as opposed to having a regular salary or a regular business income, any person with a regular money flow, which can be tracked through an AI tool, which you can now do, you open up the whole credit space to these individuals. And as a bank or as a microfinance lender, it's very attractive. You lend at 15%, which is 3-4% more than what you would lend to any other customer, as opposed to the customer who's getting it at 15% as opposed to paying 3,000%. So it's a win-win for everyone. And then, you can also include a woman angle to it if you want to, saying that you lend to women in the household, because then the women typically, I don't want to generalize, but the repayment patterns are much better. You get your money faster, and the woman's respect in the household increases. So you become a valued member, because you're here, because of you, we are getting credit from the bank. So it's a win-win for everyone concerned, and the woman makes sure that the money is paid back in time so everyone is happy. So that's the way, at scale, you can sort of expand it.
So actually, the digital stack that India has built, the government stack that India has built, is going to be a big enabler for AI, because that's
game changer. That's the
game changer. Right?
Game changer. It's going to completely alter the game.
So it's actually, when you look at social good as such, which is this part of the conversation, actually India will have an edge over other countries.
Absolutely. Because we already have an edge in the digital space.
That's right.
Our UPI system is unparalleled. Yeah. There's no other part of the world which has it.
Yeah. Well, Vaidyan, Thomas, as everyone else seems to call you, you're the tech visionary. My next question is to you. We're seeing a lot of acceleration of AI in different industries, whether it's drug discovery, materials design, climate modeling. Now, tell me, what area of that AI science synergy excites you most, particularly for the next 10 years about India?
Yeah, this is a question I've been waiting for all day, George. It totally excites me because India, as both of them mentioned, Arvind, Ajit, there's a lot of innovations already happening, including over and above healthcare and fintech in the educational world. You've heard of UI, AI, and multiple other initiatives that are working extremely well. But from a AI technology science perspective, you might have all heard of this word called convergence. And that is mind-blowing in the way it is happening. It is bringing together 5 major technologies: AI, public blockchains, energy, and multiomics. I don't know whether you're familiar with multiomics, but it is basically the layering of multiple genomics and similar studies to bring out healthcare products, cure cancer and things like that. So this is happening in such a huge way that the convergence of all this in the coming, right now and in the coming years, could really transform our lives. And that is where the impact on India could be huge. Let me give you an example. I drive a robo car right now. You might have heard of the Tesla, right? I have one of the first cars.
So you're not driving.
Yeah, I have one of the first cars, which when I bought, I told my son, Aditya, this is going to be the last car Tesla built. Because now the latest versions that I have are entirely driving by itself. I just sit in the car and say, go here. And even over like 5 inches of snow, as we had two weeks back, it just goes wonderfully. It stops at stop signs, avoids puddles, and even has a Mad Max mode, the way I drive, right? But the beauty of it is, after around 7 billion miles of data, it is 10 times or 1,000% safer than a human driver. Just think about it. Tesla is also building out a humanoid robot. You might have heard of the Optimus. It's already breaking eggs and making a omelet. It is folding clothes. Those are things which are difficult for a robot to do. So they're bringing that out in a year's time. So how does that affect us, right, in India? Well, in pretty much all the areas that we have spoken about, from education, from healthcare, from energy storage, and also you might have heard of the reusable rockets that SpaceX brings into play, right? I mean, ISRO is doing a phenomenal job, but how come we are not there? We've got smarter, brilliant people here, so we need to get into all those. However, all those opportunities are there, but there are also certain challenges to applying it at large scale here in India. And one of those challenges is upskilling, particularly in the robotics and multiomics area, where we have strength, but we need to get it faster. So, and that is the message to leadership here. How can we do that faster, better?
Yeah. So I guess it's not just AI, but AI was continuously learning with data that's really making it even more powerful. And today, AI building the next generation of AI. I think that's really what's interesting. And so back to you, Arvind. I think the healthcare industry is probably trying to catch up on much of these things, which is very technologically advanced in the technology sector. So tell me, when an AI system gives medical advice, who do patients really trust? The doctor, the machine, the brand behind it? And what happens when all of them disagree? As AI takes on more roles on clinical decision making, what kind of safeguards or checks should you put to ensure that there is transparency, there's accountability, and there's a trust between doctor, patient, and AI, which is the algorithm itself?
So if you walk into a primary care physician's office or a doctor's office, even at the Mass General, one of the most annoying aspects that they face is the patient shows up with a bunch of research and self-diagnosis. So it used to be Dr. Google, now it's Dr. ChatGPT. And the doctor or the physician themselves are also constantly researching, using some of these tools, but with the right guardrails. So where do you build this trust, right? And that's still a question we're all trying to determine, But I'll tell you, there has been incidents of, in the US, you have something called medical malpractice. So in the last 2 years, there's been a 14% increase in medical malpractice claims. They pay millions of dollars if they find out that, or they prove that you have moved away from what is called a standard of care. And these medical malpractice claims are, in fact, being alleged against the models. But it's going to come back to the same thing. What is that? The clinician is ultimately accountable. The doctor is ultimately accountable. The models and algorithms should remain auditable. And the institution or the physician remains responsible for safety and not just for approving use of AI in the care. So with that type of context, I know in India, this is not very maturely framed out. There is the Consumer Protection Act that protects data privacy. Then there is the National Medical Commission with guidelines where it shows AI can be a collaborator, but leaves matters in the gray zone. And the ICMR has offered clear guidance and ethical AI use, emphasizing on consent, data privacy, fairness, human oversight, etc. What I'm trying to get at is the US is still evolving from putting out a lot of AI solutions out there and then coming back to governance. India should take a very bold step of establishing some governance frameworks and put in place what other parts of the world have emulated or they're starting to promote, including the US. There's a consortium for healthcare AI, there's a joint commission, they're putting out guidelines to be able to create that level of trust and responsibility between the physician and the patient. So I don't think I answered your question, but I definitely will tell you there are guardrails, and those guardrails are around, right now it's human in the loop, and it'll move to human as the auditor.
So I guess ultimately it comes down, whichever way, the way you see it, the accountability, at least for the foreseeable future, will lie with the human, right? Whichever way you look at it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Now, Ajit, you've been CFO managing budgets in your various sector, in your financial services career. Tell us a little bit about how AI can play a role in identifying and financing the green or sustainable projects, helping that finance sector today to contribute to the Planet Sutra, if I may, of this summit.
Sure. Thanks for that question, George. So I think AI can truly be a differentiator there. And let me explain how that can happen. So if you look at any large-scale projects, that will go through because you have ability to track and monitor. You have systems behind it, structures, etc. But what about the smaller micro projects? What about in smaller farms, villages, a solar project as an example, which will lead to reduction in electricity costs, which will result in climate change. AI can help monitor that. How? Through output, methods like through weather pattern changes, through seasonality. Using AI, you can monitor things which otherwise is not possible. So there are ways to measure the efficacy of a climate change project, as an example, using solar panels. And using that makes it more attractive. And then once you do that, a use case could be, leveraging that for, investing in a smaller scale, in a farmland environment, and the repayments happen in time. So just imagine, if you can imagine, let's say 10,000 such projects happening, in small micro lending projects happening all over India. That's possible with AI. So that's where AI can truly be a differentiator as opposed to just being an enabler, to your very point about climate change or projects around climate change.
So ultimately, it's about the analytics providing measurements, and as they say, what you cannot measure, you cannot improve. And here,
analytics, the ability to analyze, incredible amounts of data, convert that data into information, And insight, of course, we're now getting there with machine learning, providing insight, but maybe leave the insight to the human beings. But at least you're converting data into information, and that information is useful for us to take decisions and fund these projects.
I guess that's really one of the advantages India also has. Any sector you take, the quantity of data that we have is phenomenal, right? So coming back to you, Vaidyan, I'm very curious, right? Innovation, particularly in the AI space, is moving so fast. I was reading one of those articles recently saying that in 2023, AI couldn't make basic arithmetic calculations. In 2026, they're writing whole programs, particularly in our technology sector. So innovation is moving really fast. Yet sectors, right? Healthcare, financial services, they might not be moving as fast. So governance and regulations in certain sectors move slowly. Now, tell me, what scares you more today? Moving too slowly on AI or moving too fast without guardrails?
So both of us are entrepreneurs, and we go by the ethos of build fast, break things. But this is one of the few areas where I would urge caution. And it is better to be slow than sorry. Precisely because we have all kinds of AI agents, models going haywire right now, and it's almost like the wild, wide west there, right? Even in US, which typically has a lot of guardrails, most of them are being removed right now. And so, particularly in India's case, without really, really good, robust governance, ethical alignment, transparency in training data, bias mitigation, and international standards, we could really be amplifying some of the things that could go wrong, right? From deep fakes to job disruptions. Even folks like Jeffrey Hinton and Elon Musk speak about how it could affect super intelligent scenarios, right? And I think here in India, we have had some great examples of how things can go wrong. In 2025, I believe there was this deep fake video that went around and about a finance minister and a doctor got scammed out of 20 lakhs. And then there was the case during the India-Pakistan border flare-up where deep fake videos almost escalated that crisis. And of course, you've all heard about the voice cloning scams, the grandma calls, which I believe it's hitting 47% of Indian adults, double the global rate. In fact, I warned my mother about those kind of calls. Be very, very cautious. So yeah, slow governance isn't ideal, but in this particular case, I would urge caution and adherence to some of the safe open source safety practices, collaborative regulation. And India itself has the India 25 guidelines to have a good check and balance in place.
Okay, thank you, Vaidyan, for that. We just have another 5 minutes, so I just want to open up maybe 1 or 2 questions, depending on how long our panelists will take to answer that question. So if there's anyone in the audience who would like to ask a question, please do. Yes, please.
Come along.
Just pass the mic to the...
And panelists, I'm requesting all of you to keep it very short because we do have just 4 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Srirang. I'm a student at Ashoka University. I'm a student at Ashoka University, and my question to you essentially was that, in Indian business, how difficult is it to manage geopolitical risk, especially with vis-a-vis AI?
How to manage risks?
Geopolitical
risks in the context. Would any of you would like to take that question?
Geopolitical risks are something that now organizations in US are having a chief officer for that. It is that scary, right? Especially in the current geopolitical environment. You never know what is going to go wrong the next day. Like what is going to erupt in Iran or the Strait of Hormuz tomorrow. So I think India, for that matter, has been impacted by the recent tariffs and things like that. But what has amazed me is how well it has handled the scenario, how it has redirected itself, say, to align better with Europe. So I think India is well staged to do that. Anybody else on that?
Yeah, no, I can give you, yeah, so Biden covered the geopolitical risks around finance and, all of that and the tariffs, etc. What about, a real risk nowadays which you're facing where wars, as an example, border skirmishes and things, it's moved out of the realm of human, army or hordes of army. Now it's all AI, right? You're creating drones, you're sending thousands and thousands of drones. Technically, you can do that. So unless you have the ability to counter that with a counter, AI or an ability to sort of detect and sort of neuter, you have an issue. So I guess my one-line answer to that is be prepared. So because the whole world is changing, and unless we change, individuals, all of us, and as companies and corporates, and of course as a country, and this AI conference is a fabulous example of how we are trying to sort of get it all together to be prepared in all realms, be it financial, be it economic, be it geopolitical, etc.
Well, at the healthcare perspective, when is the next pandemic going to hit us, and what will it be? It's all driven by data and so many risk factors.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we've really just run out of time. And
George, let me, one little thing. I see a lot of young faces out there. And one of the things I'm sure is a burning question is how is it going to impact my future? How is it going to impact jobs for me? And let me just touch on it. This could be utopian. But I mentioned about robots taking over most of the jobs. In US, for instance, already 250,000 jobs have been lost this year, and primarily to AI, right? So that is going to happen. But here is a good scenario, at least in the West, that might come on initially, where we go into a model of universal high income, where we are taxing companies for AI and robotics, where we have 24/7 productivity. And we come with a scenario where most of us won't have to work for a living, but we only work if we want to. So let us hope that is where we go to.
Yeah, so sit on a beach, sip your beer, and let AI do the work for you, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I have a question.
I just want to, unfortunately, we've run out of time, and I do need to moderate it, so let's...
Surely, one more question.
One more question,
Come
okay.
on. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
Hello everyone. My name is Arjun Singh from Vijoria Foundation. My question is that how we can use the AI in fundraising aspects?
All right, let me take that. So, I think AI can change dramatically change the ball game as far as fundraising is concerned. Because right now, what does AI do? It helps you provide data points. A lender, what is the lender looking for? Or a consortium of lenders, they look for credible information, right? So as opposed to being fed pitches and sort of powerful PowerPoint presentations promising the world, if you can have AI convert data, the multiple data points to sort of information which you can then provide, which was not the ability, which you didn't have the ability before. I talked about micro lending, at a small scale, but even if it's a large scale project, you can effectively leverage AI to provide the data and information which a lender is looking for to be able to help in fundraising. Does it answer your question?
Yes, about. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, Arvind, Ajit, and Thomas for your thoughts, comments, and contextualizing your experience for the Sutras of People, Planet, and Progress. Let's just, a couple of seconds, let's zoom out and summarize before we close. In India, AI must mean inclusion, be it in healthcare or in talent or wider opportunities in financial services. And the future of AI should not be decided by algorithms. It needs to be decided by our values. And we humans hold accountability for that. So let's build intelligence that uplifts. So in closing, in a nation of 1.4 billion dreams, AI must not replace ambition. It must amplify it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys. Can I plug? Yeah. Yes, that's why I kind of addressed.